excited to announce the next speaker. He works with thousands of chiropractors all across the world. He's one of the leading experts in that field. He's got some incredible software programs. He joined us at High Point University just a few months ago, and he's got an incredible talk for you guys. Please give a big, warm round of applause for Miles Bodzin.
All right. Let's start by giving some applause to Nick for putting on a great program and his whole team. Awesome. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be on the stage with the likes of Dr. Nudu Qubain, Brian Tracy, all the wonderful speakers. It's an honor, so I appreciate the opportunity to be and share with you today. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. I wasn't in the food business, but I suddenly discovered, growing up in Miami, Florida, that we had an avocado tree in our backyard, and avocados would fall on the ground. And I soon learned how to pick up those avocados, fill up my little red wagon, walk around the neighborhood, and knock on doors, and turn those avocados into quarters. And that lit a passion in me at 8 years old that I had the control of my destiny. And I'm sure you could all, if I asked each of you, you probably had a similar story of whether it was you did paper routes as a kid, or you started your own business selling notes to classmates, or going to elementary school with cinnamon sticks and selling them for 50 cents to your classmates. Whatever it was, I'm sure if we went out in the room, we'd hear plenty of those stories as a child. So how I ended up going to school to become an electrical engineer, Chris, I shared that with you, share the story. My story's a little different, though. I went to in high school, I had a teacher who believed in me and saw something in me. She saw that I had this skill in the world of what's called, back in the early 80s, computer programming, which was this really new thing, at least for high school it was. And I excelled at it. And she saw something in me and encouraged me to go to engineering school. So I did. I went to become an electrical engineer. And what happened was, in my senior year of engineering, I had an epiphany. I woke up and realized I was living Mrs. Brenneman's dream. I wasn't living my own dream. And it freaked me out. So I did what Steve Jobs did, is I dropped out of school. I left engineering, and I did what I normally do when I was stressed. I went to the beach in San Diego, which is where I was living, and I surfed to clear my mind. And after I did, I sat on the beach with all these questions in my mind, and something told me to get a pad of paper out and write a story of who I'd be when I grow up, and make my vision very clear. And once I had that vision in place, it became very clear to me that engineering was not the life I wanted to live. Although I loved the work, I saw that it didn't fulfill me. And what I happened to do is I was visiting a chiropractor. So I got into the world of chiropractic because I was visiting a chiropractor, and suddenly, the vision I had, I saw that this gentleman was living. He was helping people. He was making a good living. He was doing all these wonderful things, and it dawned on me, that's my life. So like that, I made a decision, and the next day, figured out what I wanted to do, how to get into chiropractic school, and off I went. But my entrepreneurial spirit was still there. While in school, I decided I needed to make some money. So what I do? I did what I normally did, which is I figured out how to sell stuff to my classmates, just like I did when I was a young kid. So I took notes, and I would sell them to my classmates, and by the time I graduated, I did over $50,000 of sales to my classmates in notes, and learning, and studying. And so this entrepreneurial spirit can continue on. And to this day, I still have people come up and say, hey, I used to buy your notes, and you got me through school, and all of that stuff. So it was very exciting. So I went off to chiropractic school, and then I went and became a chiropractor and had a very successful career for nearly 2 decades. I know I don't look my age. People tell me that all the time. I'm not 60, I promise. But by the way, I figured out the secret, just kind of a little side story. I found out the secret for all to be experts, right? We're all supposed to be experts, right? You guys know what the definition of an expert is? Have you heard the definition? It's someone from out of town with PowerPoint slides. That's an expert, and so that makes us all experts. Okay. All right, so my company, to show the slide real quick, this is just who my company is now. I left chiropractic eventually because I developed software, went back to my engineering, developed some software, and we now provide software as a service. We have several thousand clients who pay us a monthly subscription fee to use our software to run their businesses now. This is my company, my team. That's me at the very top. I probably can't, if you blow that up for just a second, I want to just show you the very top. Right there's my daughter with me up there, Mariah, and then all my team of staff were at an event together. So here's the thing. I would love thinking outside of the box. My favorite quote of all time is Einstein saying, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And what I say is we're problem solvers, or we're solution providers. I loved what Dr. Nito said, that we're here to provide solutions, not solve problems. And I've always thought that as well, to provide solutions. And that's why I provide my software now, is I find it's a solution for people. And I want to get you guys thinking a little different. For example, here's a company that came across, you guys seen these cars before, the smart cars? Would you agree they thought differently? They were thinking outside of the box? There was a real creative, in fact, do any of you, raise your hand if you know anybody that owns one of these cars. Would you agree that the people who own them are like, I own one of those cars. I'm a smart guy, right? Would you agree that they figured something out? It's really caught on. In fact, Porsche's doing it now. They call it a smorsh, right? A smorsh, you ever seen it? It's really caught on. I mean, as soon as you're doing something great, people want to rip you off and copy you, right? And then there's, who wants to pronounce that one? Smarari, right? It's a Smarari, right? You're like, yeah, okay. And the Smarmagini there. It's really catching on. This is my favorite though. It's the Mustang. Okay. So we want to think a little differently. We want to think outside the box. We want to look at problems and provide solutions differently than what we've been, creating them as. So let's think outside the box. My topic today is client retention. That's where I excel. The reason I was so successful in practice is because my retention with my patients, and this is what you can get if you're not dealing with patients, you're dealing with clients, was 25 times higher than the average in America. That my clients stayed with me 25 times longer. Now that must mean either I was a really terrible chiropractor and I couldn't get results, or it meant that I was really good and people wanted to be with me. And I'd rather think it was the latter. To my excitement that when I sold my practice a number of years ago, most of the people I took care of still see the doctor who took over that practice. And it's because we put into place systems that allowed people to be there, that we couldn't get them away. We couldn't shoo them away. In fact, I took it a point to interview my patients where I set up a camera and said, tell me why you're still here. You've been here with hundreds of visits, 5+ years. Why the hell do you still show up? And the answers I got really astounded me. And what it made me realize was we were doing a lot of things right. And I boiled it down to this one principle, and I had to give it a name, so I put my name in front of it, the Bodzin principle of retention. And if there's going to be one thing you're going to learn from me, it's this right here, and you apply this in your business. You go back and do staff meetings, and you staff meeting on this subject matter. Take a picture of it, save this. In order to prevent your clients from leaving your service, you have to identify and remove the situations where a client has to make a decision as to whether they start or continue your service. It's the decision points that give the client, the opportunity to decide not to stay with you. That if you just went through your business and identified every situation that occurs where a client has to make a decision and remove those decision points, you would be surprised, as long as you're providing the wonderful services you do, they just choose to stay. And what I found in practice is, of course, there's decisions that need to be made, but the difference between my practice and others was that the number of decisions people had to make was very small compared to other practices where there was always a decision that needed to be made. Every time the patient got re-examined, or every time there was a time to make a payment again, or whatever, there was always a new decision, and we identified those. Another way of saying this is, in order to prevent your clients from dropping out of your service, you have to identify and remove the situations where the client doesn't feel they're in the right place. All of you that signed up on the forums to buy the different things that were being offered to you today, something inside of you said, I feel like this is right for me. You used your brain, but ultimately what made you have the decision to finally sign and say, now I'm doing this, something inside of you spoke to you and said, I feel right about it. And that's how your clients make decisions, right? They use their brain. We like to think it's logical, but at some point, their gut finally says it. And that's the way I'll say this. Another way of saying the same thing, there's a third way, I'll put this in the positive. Before I was talking about the things you have to remove the situations that cause them to have to make a decision. Let's put it in the positive. In order to prevent your clients from dropping out of your service, you have to create situations where the client feels they're in the right place. And there's been a ton written about this, about providing the amazing customer service and the four-season hotels and all of the examples of providing that amazing experience for people. It's not just creating the amazing experience, however. It's removing the obstacles that get in the way of people having a good experience as well. I always like to say this, you have to listen to your gut. And how many of you right now finally made your decision to be here? You got how many letters from Nick and their team? How many things did you receive that finally something said, all right, my gut is telling me I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to pull the trigger and go. So I encourage you in your businesses, for your own sake, listen to your gut when you're making your decisions, because it always serves you right. Isn't that right? Don't we always feel better? Don't we always make the right thing when we listen to our gut? And I know all the mistakes I've made has been when I didn't listen to my gut. And then when you get back, get with your team. Hopefully you've surrounded yourself with an amazing team of people and create an exercise where you say, let's think of the different things we do. And is this causing people to wonder if they're in the right place or not? I'll tell you, I'll end with a quick story. And the story is this. I was sitting with a client of ours, and I take care of thousands of clients now all over the nation. And the client said this, since I put into your practice these ideas, our retention had doubled, and then tripled, and quadrupled, and the music's coming on, so I'm going to end the story with that. And just say this. I encourage you to make it a point to do this, and I appreciate your time, and thank you, Nick, for putting the event on.